I'm going to tell you the truth about Papa.
Papa being God. Let us talk today about Molech, the god of child sacrifice. We're going to talk about abortion, and we're going to talk about an underworld and an above world and possibly a third world. And although this is an individual reading for Teresa, Teresa's twin brother came forward in the art to tell us something that I need to convey because it relates to my life, and it's the only way that I can express it verbally. When I was 11 years old, like the character 11, in Atlanta, Georgia, I was actually put into Hawkins Lab, which is the place where they filmed Stranger Things. Hawkins Lab used to be called Georgia Mental Health Institute. So my life was very much like the character 11. I escaped from this hospital with a girl named Nora. It was an exciting adventure, but I was thrown in there because my stepdad, who was a preacher, didn't want to go to prison for molesting me. So the best thing to do is to make, the witch hunt of a crazy person and throw a little girl in a state mental hospital. When I was 19, I became pregnant by a narcissistic, basically a demon, and I had no one on my side. So I thought about having an abortion. And so I went to an abortion clinic because I prayed and tried to figure out whether I should have this baby or not, because this world that we live in is like a hell. And I didn't want to bring a baby into a hell because to me, that was a sacrifice in itself, to make a human being have to endure this terrible, horrible reality. So this is a piece of art that I did where the woman above at 11 o'clock aborted her baby, and the baby went to a lower world. And this lower world is a world that is below. Notice the two arms makes the number 11, like the character 11, right? So according to my art, we don't die, whether we are aborted or whether we die. According to my art from the past, I did not end up having the abortion, by the way. I fainted and I decided to have her. And so I was born in 1973. This is the year of Roe versus Wade. And stick with me. This story is going somewhere. So we can see that one world is a woman in a bed with God holding his hand over her head, right? And this is a place of healing. It's a place of growing. It's a place of basically reconciling, kind of a reconciliation. So this is a piece of art that I did of a woman who wanted me to make her into a tree woman. But when I started doing her piece, her tree was cut in half by lightning, and a little boy was aborted. And the aborted baby went to a dark world. And the dark world had symbols of Molech and some priest-looking beings. And there I'm circled there as a little boy. And when I finished this piece for this woman, she said, "Oh no, I've never had an abortion." But then a month later came back and said, "I never told anyone that I had the abortion, so I don't know how you knew it," right? So what I'm trying to say is that we don't die, but there's a possibility that we were cut or aborted. And some of us who were aborted experienced a parallel reality, but it was an underworld. And our parents were jerks, and it was like District 12 where really nothing was in our favor. It's a dark underworld. So this piece here reflects the tree of good and evil, the male and the female. But there's a third world that is a world of light. And when I decided to have my daughter, I saw this owl in my head. And Molech is connected to the owl and the bull. So I know that there are people who sacrifice children to Molech. But according to my life story and what I was told last night in the bath, is that we need to understand the world of the dark world and the world of the light. Those of us who are very young souls and have not grown in knowledge because we were aborted or miscarried, we don't know it. All we know is that we grew up with narcissistic parents and everybody was a jerk to us. So in Stranger Things, the character 11 knew about the underworld, the upside down world, and the right side up world. So we're going to talk about that. And the number 11 being exactly symbolic of the two pillars of Solomon and a doorway that leads to portals, which leads to an upside down or a right side up world. It's like Dorothy Gale, her name has 11 letters. And at 12 years old, she left a black and white world and went to a world of color. So a world of darkness, a world of light. One world looks like the moon, dark. And they say we were born in sin. The god of the moon was named Sin. And then the right side up world is a world of light and a world of magic, basically. But then there's a third world that is being presented to us today. And we're gonna bring it back to Teresa and her twin brother who died, and what her twin brother is telling us about the unseen world and about the allegories of the Bible and of written history. So Harry Potter has 11 letters in his name, and he was 12 years old when he left the Muggles. It's a place where nothing is in your favor. Muggles are jerks. And the moon energy is a jerk world. It's a world where nothing is in our favor. District 12, 12 hours, 12 months, 12 zodiac signs. And it's a prison. It's like a prison. So were we all aborted when we were born here, or miscarried, or we just were not born in the correct time? So you go to Hogwarts, and Hogwarts is a magical place, a place where you have freedom, a place where you know power, a place where you are under a different control. Let's look at Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were in the garden. Adam was Eve and Eve was Adam. Our original state was androgynous and we had two souls, but then we split worlds. This was the tree of good and evil. And then when we split ourselves, Eve from Adam, this split the moon. The moon and the sun used to be as one. This is why the moon looks like it was on fire. And when we partook of this good and evil, this splitting, we began to see evil. So one world is evil, and we see evil, and we experience evil. And the other world is not evil. Okay? So, there's no way that we can prove that our souls were somehow miscarried or aborted and we experienced a parallel relationship with people who were the shadow of our true mother and father. But this is the story that's being told to us. So Osiris's body was cut 14 times, 7 for her, 7 for him. And so when you look at the seal of Solomon, Solomon has a depiction here of a world made of water, which is the moon. And if you look at the line in the center, above is a world of fire, or the sun. And if you look at Solomon's beard, you see the secret hidden woman in the world above, and the male is below. So Solomon is Sol, sun, Oman, moon, right? So one world is the sun and the other world is the moon. For those of us who were born in sin, we had to endure the letter S, shame, ignorance, and narcissism. And then Osiris's body was cut 14 times, 7 for her, 7 for him. So the land of Oz is the wizard, the great and mighty Wizard of Oz. And Iris is the goddess of the rainbow. You can read about her. One world is illuminated, like a rainbow or a sun, and one world is dark. So those of us who were born in darkness, I don't know why we were born in darkness. Were we sacrificed? Were we aborted? Were we miscarried? Something happened where we began to experience a reality that was inferior to the Garden of Eden. So likewise, Yeshua is Yah, which means moon, and Shua means sun. So Solomon, Osiris, Yeshua, and many other names are not people. They are allegories for realms of time. So when we grow through the body of Yeshua or Christ, we grow through the moon and the sun. We grow through darkness to get to light. We have to heal the 7 wounds of Christ through our 7 chakras, through the 7 spirits of God. And we have to die before we die and rebirth through the Son of God. Okay? So you can see Shua means the ray of the sun, kind of like a rainbow. Okay, so this is the same story of Osiris and Solomon. And Solomon turned up in our art yesterday when we were live, telling us that he wasn't a man, although he could manifest as a man. He was a realm of time, a pocket of time. So Molech is like moon, M-O, mo. And lek means to get out, to go, to leave. So did people sacrifice their children because they knew they were in the dark world, and by sacrificing them, it would send them to the world of the light? I don't know. I totally don't believe in child sacrifice. I think that it's disgusting and horrific, and I hate it. But I'm just wondering if they did it because they knew they were in a dark world. So don't think that our God isn't a God of child sacrifice, because our God told Abraham to burn his son alive. But understanding the word lek in Molech means to go, get out, to leave. So to put a soul into death, to kill somebody as a sacrifice, is to take them out of either the light or out of the darkness. But it also means to go into yourself, toward your soul's essence, toward your ultimate purpose, to that precious inner land that you don't know yet. And I know, and I will lead you there. So when we begin to look at some of these symbols, I really don't like to think the worst, because this is what religion has done. They made hell and demons and all these things look like really bad. And I know that the dark world is really bad. But we have to understand that we have to grow through the darkness to get to the light and then make it to the third world. And so if you curse God, then you will be cursed, because you don't realize where you are and how you have to grow through it and through the body of Christ. But if you bless God, you will be blessed. And it's so funny, because Genesis 22:119 is 9/11. 9/11 was the 2 towers that looks like the number 11, and the number 22 is the 2 towers reflecting in the water that makes the number 22, and 9/11 equals 11. And this is about God asking Abraham to sacrifice his son. Okay, it's a sacrifice. And did not God sacrifice Yeshua, Jesus Christ, more horrifically than burning someone alive, really? So our God, or the God of the Bible, is the God of child sacrifice too. So people want to say that Molech was the evil one, but what we have to understand about Papa, which is God, is that we don't die. Yes, there is pain. Yes, there is suffering. But when the 2 towers fell, this reflected the number 11. 9/11 equals 11. If you look into the number 11 associated with 9/11, you'll be shocked. Count how many people are on the airplane. Count all the numbers. They all equal either 111 or 11. So Jesus Christ has 11 letters in his name. And it was about a death when the 2 towers fell. We died, but we did not experience death. It's like Dorothy died. The allegory that she hit her head and became unconscious is an allegory that we don't experience death. We just shift realities. So what happened is, if you look at the Supertramp album, you have to flip it over, and you can see the 2 towers is symbolisms of a sacrifice, and somehow that we shifted from the moon to the sun. And the sun, when we first shifted, we began to raise a veil, and we began to see truths that we never saw before. And this is what the sun does. It burns away all that is false. And it's very uncomfortable at first. And so it doesn't feel that comfortable. So now we have come to Teresa's piece. Notice Molech there at 5 o'clock. Okay. Teresa, you're in a boat with your brother. Your brother has a white cloak as a symbol that he died, but also as a symbol to keep your body in the sun. Keep your luminosity. Molech is underwater. This is a reflective of the underworld. Under there are ancient truths and even a dragon. There in the upper world, you can see the two people. This is the tree of good and evil. This is the Adam and the Eve. This was our original state. And they are under an elephant at 11 o'clock. And this is the moon, right? And so at 1 o'clock, there's a bird with its head cut off. And this reflects that our original state was more like a bird or a dragon. And we were cut like Maleficent's wings were cut. And we were sent into a dual reality. So one half of you is in a lower realm, and the other half seems to be in a upper realm. So I astral traveled and saw through your eyes last night, and there's a piece of you, like, okay, so your brother, your twin brother, has a piece of him that is a female in one world, and another that is a male in the other world, right? And everyone loves you when I saw through your eyes. I was surprised, because I don't feel that comfortable around human beings, but you feel very comfortable around people. So the feeling that you gave me was people love you when you walk into the room. They're comfortable with you. I feel more peace than anything. But your brother was there and wanted you to know that his avatar, or the person who was here, was part of a dark world. And he had to move through the light. So here is your divinity. You're holding a peacock in a vial. And your brother, again, is at 1 o'clock with a rabbit, a white rabbit. This is a conveying to stay as white as snow and to wear the invisibility cloak. To become invisible is an alchemical process of believing nothing and feeling nothing, but going with a divine flow and listening to the divine order of God. And the wisdom of the owl is the understanding of a lower world and an upper world, as the two eyes of the owl reflect two parallel worlds. Two worlds. So you can see Molech is under your arm at 8 o'clock with the letter M. And then you have a Christmas tree falling over. This is Solomon. And it is the blazing star of Solomon. You have mushrooms. This is about contacting God through elements like mushrooms. And you have a crown that has MM. And I don't know if it's Mithra, Molech, Moon, Mary Magdalene, Master Magician, Master Mason, but it's very significant. And it's a communication about an upper world and a lower world. Man and woman, MW. And so you have a broken heart. One heart is one world. The other heart is another world. So Adam in one world, Eve in the other world. And then a third world being born. And this third world is a world of freedom. And you're invisible, and you're wearing a rainbow light body. And it's this invisibility cloak. And your twin brother says he's wearing the invisibility cloak. So I saw him in a parallel realm. He's with you. And so he sent you the number 2034. This says Jesus' twin. It's about your twin. And he says he's in a world that he didn't die. He's with a woman and that I don't know. He's living a life and he's happy. He says, "I love you, 2034." And I don't know why it was so important for him to show you this, but he is saying that there is a dark underworld, and it is dark. But I believe that we have grown through it, and that Some of us in our past lives may have been sacrificed to Molech. Some of us were aborted. Some of us were miscarried. And that is why we were so removed from God. Eating from the tree of evil may have been a communication about sacrifice or abortion or something like that. So I will shake the heavens. So this is somebody communicating to you about that. Maybe it's your brother. I must work freedom from demons. Now, that Molech character, I did a lot of research. It's a very dark being. Why people would sacrifice children and burn them alive. They're called Canaanites, and they don't seem to have a soul. They don't have a conscience. So they're demonic. They're evil, 2034, I always think about her. And so the peacock in your piece is about the many colors of the peacock. And when the peacock goes through the fire of Molech, the allegory of it, of the underworld, USA, volcanoes erupting. You had a volcano in your piece too, erupting. So I don't know what that means. Maybe it's about the fire within, could be an allegory, but you have a volcano and a piece of our soul was sent to a volcano. Out of the smoke of the volcano is a person. Now, in Scientology, they say that Xenu stole our souls and put them in volcanoes, kind of like Frodo sending the Ring of Power to Mordor. So there's something about how we were sent to a terrible place for whatever reason. A narcissist who shall burn in hell. Someone in your life who is a narcissist will be sent to the dark underworld because they will have to grow their soul through the light and work through pain and suffering to get through the body of Christ, the 7 wounds of Christ. It's painful. I got nothing but love for you. This is your twin brother letting you know that he isn't who you think he is and that he's on your side and he is working for you and with you. You guys are eternally somehow connected. So, only truly evil creatures will keep sinning against God and insist that they are doing nothing wrong. Yes, our actions are a prayer. So how we treat children and animals and all of that is a prayer for life or death. And so it gets pretty deep. So the character 11, who experienced a mother who wasn't there and a papa who was very, very evil to her, somehow she was like a sacrifice and was sent to the dark worlds for dark purposes. The whole NASA is engaged in human trafficking, moon technology, and most of them have been cloned or reprogrammed by one country or another. This is another number that came up in your piece. The eye is the lamp of the soul, be it single, so that thine whole vessel be filled with light, and no shadow shall abide in thee. This is what I'm talking about, that we must be invisible. The Gospel of Philip says that when we become illuminated through the SUN of God, the Son of God, the dark ones cannot see us or detain us, because the agenda is those of us who were born in a dark world, like the character 11, they want to keep us there forever, reincarnating only there because we did not become illuminated. Spiritual warfare, a combo of psychological games using MK Ultra, Blue Beam, NASA, the Space Endeavor, energy draining rituals, spirit cooking, isolation, fear. People are sinful because of subconscious satanic programming. Yes, this Molech energy wants to keep you in the moon, wants to keep us in the darkness, wants us to work for the dark under the illusion that we're working for the light. And I'm so sorry to say this, but I see this in most Christians, because this concept of church and Paul worshipers and once saved, always saved, they do whatever they want with their actions, and their actions are a prayer, and their actions follow the dark side. I've seen it too many times. Lived on a Bible campus, preacher, grandfather, preacher, father. They do not think that their actions are a prayer. They believe in worship outside of self. And so they're followers of the darkness, in my opinion. So this Molech or Moloch is about shadow, the shadow. So if I'm right, or if we're right, or if Spirit is communicating correctly, or if I'm conveying it correctly, some of us were born in the dark moon sin like Adam and Eve because of sacrifice, abortion, miscarriage, or whatever. And we had to move through pain, through the shadow, into the body of Christ and the light. And when we transform through the body of Christ, we move from Pisces to Aquarius. And so Moloch is the bull and the owl. And Moloch showed up in both of your pieces. And that's why I had to text you to see if you were somebody who followed Molech, because I was going to say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to finish your reading because I really don't like the idea of, child sacrifice. But you plainly said, I don't know anything about Molech, but it was someone else in your life who was quite evil. And their energy is somehow in your dark underworld or your past. And so the peacock must blend all colors into white. So the Moloch that's in your past, you must recapitulate that evil narcissistic man out of your very memory and never mention their name again, because somehow their energy is keeping you weighed down like an anchor on your boat. Now, this happens subconsciously, but that evil man that was in your life is connected to Molech. And so there's someone in your life that has a line, like a fishing line, from you to them. And we have to cut them out of our lives. Think about what Christ said. Anyone who doesn't bear fruit on their tree, you know a man by the fruit of his tree, should be cut down and thrown into the fire. So here I see you're holding a fish, and there's a fire, and you're throwing the fish into the fire of Mordor and burning the soul out. So you need to recapitulate through the recapitulation act. It's a breathing technique. This Molech energy off of you. And because you're not fully white yet, your brother says. The peacock is a time in your life when you are learning to blend all of your colors into pure whiteness. The white rabbit you see at 1 o'clock there, right? And so in order for you to birth the third world, this is the true world. This is the Garden of Eden. This is where Adam and Eve come together. This is the tree of life. This is the place of illumination and power and magic and everything working in your favor instead of working against you. You go to District 13, which is not a prison, it's a heaven. District 12 is a prison. So that this Molech energy is tipping your Christmas tree over. Christmas is the number 12, the 12th month. And the Jacob's ladder of Solomon is your Kundalini awakening that rises up like a ladder to Sirius B, the dog star. Now, Sirius B, the dog star, is a star in the sky that is a sign that something has opened like an egg within your cells. So this is God coming alive for the first time for you. Where the character 11 on Stranger Things had Papa, who was very abusive, and then she got a new father who was a police officer who was very kind. So where before our father was an asshole, now God Father, who sacrificed his son and wanted Abraham to burn his son alive, now we see the true Father. So this symbol of the Christmas tree and Sirius B, the dog star, is like Harry Potter. When he went to Hogwarts, he was out of the moon energy and he got a new God and Father. And what was his new God and Father's name? Sirius B. Sirius Black, the dog. And it is also connected to Emma Yah. Emma Yah is the Mother Mary who birthed Christ consciousness. And how long was Sirius Black in Azkaban? 12 years. When we are spiritually 12 years old, this is the Christmas tree. We become illuminated like the Christmas tree, and our higher self, the Son of God, our God and Father, illuminates for the first time and cracks open like an egg within our hearts and within our cells of our body. This is a sign that you are 12 years old and ready to leave the Bible. So Jesus left the Bible at 12 and didn't come back until he was walking on water, raising the dead, and Jesus had 12 disciples. Jesus plus his 12 disciples equals 13. It's a coven of witches. Dorothy didn't know she was a witch. Harry didn't know he was a wizard. So a witch and a wizard isn't about black magic or sorcery. It's about being the oracle. And the oracle was written in the Bible 23 times. And there's even ancient carvings of Christ holding a wand. And Harry Potter's wand just so happens to be 11 inches long. So the number 11 and this, the two poles of Solomon's temple is mathematical. And it is an allegory of getting into a boat. So you're in a canoe. This means that you are in the ark. You are in the eye of the needle. You have been rebirthed. You cannot get into the ark unless you have been born again or twice born. So this is why the animals can only load 2 by 2. Once you get into this allegorical ark, your apple, which what destroyed you before, becomes whole again. And we activate our Taurus field. And this is our spirit becoming illuminated. And we are invisible to the dark ones. They will no longer be the papa or this God that sacrifices animals. We will find the true God. The other one was the false God and the false light. So in the return to Oz, Dorothy saw her other half, her other twin self. And when we see our twin selves and we connect with our twin selves, we have been made whole again. We have been reconciled. Azkaban in Gematria actually parallels with Prison Planet. Now, we are in the year 2023. This is the year of the water rabbit. The white rabbit has 2 ears that looks like the number 11. The whiteness is about purification. That it is a water rabbit is significant to the age of Noah. In the Bible, it says that the age of Noah, when the age of Noah returns, Christ will return, and Christ returns within you. So the ark is actually an ancient knowledge in the Book of Gates, the Egyptian Book of Gates. And so when we are under the seat of this goddess that you see here, we are in a prison. And when we rise up above the prison through the light, that star there, this means that God has become awoken within us, like the spring of Easter and the Easter bunny and the rabbit. And we have entered into an ark, and we will be sorted like a hat into spirit guides that manifest as animals. And they are bodies of time. They are realities. And believe me, miracles will start happening, walking on water, raising the dead, because you have made it through the body of Christ. And so being in the ark is the third world. We all live in a yellow submarine. So the third world is not polarized by male or female, but we did have to go through the male to get to the female, and then finally to the center, which is the ark. Once you get into this metaphorical ark, you are purified. You are white as snow, and you will not experience the evilness of the dark world. And so, look at you. You're an alchemist. Becoming an alchemist is understanding that the entire Bible is made up of sacred geometrical communications and numerical communications. The ark is the Vesica Piscis. It is the eye of the needle. And it is ancient, and it goes back to Egypt. And it is a place that our soul shifts to, like a thief in the night, the blink of an eye. So study recapitulation and begin cutting certain energies out of your memory. Never mention them again. Throw pictures of them away, because you do not need to have the energy of Molech anywhere near you. And we need to forgive and let go, and remember that forgiveness is not a kind act. Forgive your brother for whatever you think that he did or whatever he did, because your brother is not the bad guy. Your brother is in the boat with you. We don't know whether he lived many lifetimes after his death, but now he's white as snow, and you are being trained to do the same. So, thank you for what you had to teach us, Teresa, in your reading. Very, very enlightening, right? It's just a wonderful promise that we're going to be going to a new world and a better world, and that you are in the boat, and you are protected and loved. Take the fish that's in your hand. This is memory of some jerk. Throw it in the fire of Mordor, and suddenly the king, the true king, will return. Just like the Lord of the Rings. So funny. If you would like a reading, go to forestfairy.com.